It was a dark and stormy night. The rain lashed against the window panes. The wind howled like a tortured spirit, and the occasional rumble of thunder echoed through the desolate streets. I had always considered myself immune to the creepy ambience of the night, but that particular evening would change everything. As the clock struck midnight, I found myself alone in my apartment. The flickering light from a lone lamp cast long, distorted shadows on the walls, and the distant flashes of lightning briefly illuminated the room in a scary glow. I shook off the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine, attributing it to the storm outside. Little did I know that something far more sinister was about to unfold. I decided to distract myself from the unsettling atmosphere by delving into a book. The room felt like a cocoon of solitude, and the comforting scent of old books surrounded me as I lost myself in the world of fiction. However, the storm outside seemed to be conspiring against my peace of mind, as the occasional creaks and groans of the building added to the disconcerting symphony of the night. With each passing moment, the shadows in the room seemed to dance with a life of their own. I dismissed it as a trick of the flickering light, my rational mind attempting to overpower the unease settling in the pit of my stomach. But as I turned another page, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, lurking in the corners just beyond my line of sight. The storm intensified outside, and the shadows within my apartment seemed to grow darker and more menacing. I became acutely aware of a subtle movement in my peripheral vision, a fleeting glimpse of something that vanished as soon as I turned my gaze toward it. It was as if the shadows were alive, whispering secrets that I couldn't comprehend. As the clock ticked away, I began to feel a growing sense of dread. The once familiar space of my apartment now felt like a labyrinth of uncertainty. I hesitated to look into reflective surfaces, afraid of what I might see behind me. The storm had transformed my sanctuary into a realm of paranoia and fear. I decided to retreat to the safety of my bedroom, hoping that the comfort of my bed would provide respite from the encroaching darkness. Yet, as I closed the bedroom door behind me, the oppressive feeling of being watched intensified. The shadows in the room seemed to coalesce into a formless mass, pulsating with an unsettling energy. I flicked on the bedside lamp, attempting to banish the darkness that clung to the corners. The feeble light barely reached beyond the foot of the bed, leaving the rest of the room in murky obscurity. I lay down, pulling the covers up to my chin in a feeble attempt to shield myself from the unseen eyes that I could feel boring into my very soul. The storm outside mirrored the tempest within me, the wind howling with an otherworldly fervor. The room felt charged with an unspoken force, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. Sleep eluded me, the constant fear gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. In a desperate attempt to escape the suffocating atmosphere, I turned off the lamp, plunging the room into complete darkness. It was then that I heard it, a soft, rhythmic whisper that seemed to emanate from the shadows themselves. The words were indistinct, a disconcerting murmur that teased at the edges of my understanding. I strained my ears, attempting to decipher the whispered secrets that seemed to weave through the air. The words carried a haunting melody, a tune that resonated with a familiarity that I couldn't place. Panic gripped me as the whispering intensified, the shadows converging into a semblance of form just beyond the edge of my bed. Paralyzed by fear, I watched as the shadows coalesced into a figure, a silhouette with hollow eyes that bore into mine. The whispered melody transformed into a mournful dirge, and the figure stretched out an elongated, shadowy hand toward me. The room pulsated with a scary energy, and I felt an invisible force pulling me into the abyss. In that moment of horror, I realized that the shadows were not mere illusions, but conduits for something ancient and malefic. I fought against the unseen force, my screams drowned by the haunting melody that echoed in the room. The figure in the shadows grew closer, its form twisting and contorting like a nightmarish apparition. With a final surge of dread, the shadows enveloped me, and the room succumbed to an impenetrable darkness. The whispered melody reached a crescendo, blending with my own terrified screams, creating a symphony of despair that echoed into the void. And then, in an instant, the room fell silent. Story 2. It was a cold and dreary night when I stumbled upon the antique shop tucked away in a dimly lit corner of the city. The rain tapped incessantly on the windows, casting a melancholic rhythm that seemed to resonate with the heavy atmosphere inside. Intrigued by the promise of forgotten treasures, I pushed open the creaking door and stepped into a realm of faded nostalgia. The shop was a labyrinth of forgotten relics, each piece holding a whisper of the past. Dusty shelves displayed tarnished trinkets, moth-eaten fabrics, and time-worn books that seemed to beckon me into their forgotten tales. The air itself felt heavy with the weight of untold stories, and the flickering overhead lights cast long, dancing shadows on the cracked linoleum floor. As I roamed through the aisles, my eyes were drawn to a peculiar mirror tucked away in a secluded corner. Its ornate frame, adorned with intricate carvings, seemed to tell a story of its own. The glass, although slightly smudged, retained a certain luster that hinted at the mirror's former glory. Curiosity got the better of me, and I approached the mirror, entranced by the promise of self-discovery. As I gazed into the reflective surface, I noticed an odd sensation, a subtle shift in the air, a fleeting chill that traced its icy fingers down my spine. Dismissing it as a mere figment of my imagination, I continued to examine my reflection. The reflection, however, seemed to have a life of its own. The eyes staring back at me held an intensity that freaked me out. I felt a peculiar unease, as if the mirror held a secret, a truth that transcended the boundaries of my understanding. Determined to unravel the mystery, I decided to purchase the mirror and bring it into my home. That night, I hung the mirror in the corner of my bedroom, its ornate frame now a silent observer of my nightly rituals. As I turned off the lights, the room was bathed in the silvery glow of the street lamp outside, casting a subdued ambience that seemed to breathe life into the mirror's reflective surface. In the silent darkness, I lay in bed, my thoughts drifting between wakefulness and the realm of dreams. The occasional creaks of the old house added to the ambient symphony, and I found myself staring into the mirror, captivated by the enigmatic depths of my own reflection. As the night deepened, a peculiar feeling settled over the room. It was as if the mirror held a secret portal, a gateway to a dimension just beyond my understanding. My reflection seemed to waver, its contours shifting with an unsettling fluidity. I dismissed it as a trick of the dim lighting, attempting to rationalize the unease that prickled at the edges of my consciousness. However, as I continued to gaze into the mirror, I noticed a subtle distortion in the reflection. The room behind me seemed to warp and twist, taking on an otherworldly hue that defied the laws of reality. Fear clenched at my chest, but a morbid fascination held me captive. My eyes locked onto the changing tableau within the mirror. A figure emerged from the distorted depths, a silhouette that bore a haunting resemblance to my own form. Its movements mirrored mine, but there was an uncanny disconnect, as if the reflection existed in a realm just beyond my reach. The figure's eyes, however, were empty and sent a surge of terror through my veins. I recoiled, attempting to break free from the mirror's silent grip, but an unseen force held me in place. The figure in the reflection stepped forward, its movements synchronized with mine as if tethered by an invisible thread. I could feel its gaze piercing through the glass, its eyes devoid of humanity, a void that seemed to devour the very essence of my soul. Desperation clawed at me as I struggled against the unseen force. The figure in the mirror grew closer, its features contorted in a grotesque parody of my own face. It raised an elongated, shadowy hand, fingers stretching toward the glass, and I could feel the chill of its touch even before contact was made. With a sudden jolt, the figure breached the barrier between worlds. The mirror seemed to shatter into 1,000 fractured shards, the room plunging into darkness as the fragments scattered across the floor. The figure emerged from the shattered remains, a specter of malevolence that loomed over me. As the room filled with a haunting silence, the figure's shadowy form enveloped me, its touch icy and invasive. I felt myself being pulled into the fragmented abyss, the shattered mirror becoming a gateway to a realm of unfathomable horror. The figure's whispered laughter echoed in my mind as I succumbed to the void. The last thing I saw was the reflection of the figure in the mirror's shards, a grotesque, distorted version of myself, trapped in the fractured dimensions between reality and nightmare. Story 3. The old mansion stood as a crumbling relic at the edge of town, its dilapidated facade a testament to the passage of time. Abandoned for decades, it cast a looming shadow over the neighborhood, its shattered windows and overgrown ivy a haunting reminder of a bygone era. People whispered stories of the mansion's dark history, tales of tragedy and unexplained disappearances that had cloaked the estate in a shroud of dread. One fateful evening, curiosity got the better of me. Armed with nothing but a dim flashlight and an adventurous spirit, I ventured into the decaying halls of the mansion. The air inside hung heavy with the scent of mildew and decay, and the floor creaked beneath my cautious footsteps. The fading wallpaper peeled away like the skin of some ancient serpent, revealing the mansion's former grandeur now reduced to ruins. As I explored further, I stumbled upon a room that seemed frozen in time. A grand piano sat in the center, its keys covered in a thin layer of dust. The room, once filled with the sweet strains of music, now echoed within sinister silence. Intricate patterns adorned the walls, remnants of a time when the mansion had hosted lavish gatherings and masquerade balls. My flashlight's feeble beam flickered as I inspected the room, casting ominous shadows that seemed to dance in rhythm with the tales of the mansion's haunted past. As I approached the grand piano, a chill settled in the air and I heard a faint whisper, the echo of a long-forgotten melody. It was as if the very walls themselves were trying to communicate, their secrets embedded in the very essence of the mansion. Driven by an inexplicable urge, I placed my hands on the piano keys. A haunting melody emerged, a melancholic tune that seemed to resonate with the lingering spirits of the past. The air trembled with unseen energy and the room pulsated with an otherworldly presence. Suddenly the atmosphere shifted. The whispers grew louder, forming words that resonated with a lamentation from a time long ago. The walls themselves seemed to breathe, exhaling the stories of lost souls and unspeakable sorrow. In that moment, I felt a connection to the mansion's history, a visceral link to the tragedies that had unfolded within its decaying walls. Determined to uncover the truth, I continued my exploration. The mansion revealed its secrets gradually, each room offering a glimpse into the lives that had once thrived within. Bedrooms frozen in time, ballrooms filled with the echoes of long-forgotten laughter, and hallways that seemed to stretch into eternity. All became a tapestry of the past. As I ascended a grand staircase, the air grew heavier and the temperature plummeted. I entered a dimly lit corridor adorned with portraits of stern-faced individuals whose eyes followed my every move. The whispers intensified, their voices now a cacophony of sorrow and anguish. It was as if the very walls had become a spectral choir, lamenting the tragedies etched into the mansion's history. The corridor led me to a room at the end of the hall, its door slightly ajar. A flickering candle inside cast dancing shadows, inviting me to step into the heart of the mansion's mysteries. As I pushed the door open, I entered a chamber cloaked in darkness. The room seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Tattered curtains billowed as if stirred by an unseen breeze, and a single flickering candle on an antique table cast distorted shadows on the walls. The air felt charged with a palpable energy, and the whispers crescendoed into a haunting chorus that reverberated through the chamber. In the center of the room stood an ornate mirror, its reflective surface obscured by a layer of dust. The whispers seemed to emanate from the mirror itself, as if it held the key to the mansion's darkest secrets. My breath caught as I approached, the oppressive weight of the room pressing down on me. As I gazed into the mirror, I saw not my own reflection, but a visage from another era. A woman in a tattered gown stood before me, her eyes filled with a silent plea. She reached out, her hand pressing against the mirror's surface as if seeking solace from a world beyond. The whispers intensified, the words now a mournful lamentation. In that moment, I became a conduit for the spirits trapped within the mansion's walls. Their sorrow flowed through me, a torrent of emotions that transcended time and space. The woman in the mirror spoke, her voice a spectral echo that reverberated through the chamber. The mirror revealed the tragic tale of a love lost, of a forbidden romance that had led to the mansion's descent into darkness. The woman's lover had met a grisly end, betrayed by the very walls that now echoed with his anguished cries. The mansion had become a prison for their tortured souls, and I, an unwitting visitor, had become entwined in their spectral narrative. As the story unfolded, the room quivered with an otherworldly energy. Shadows materialized, swirling around the chamber like ethereal specters. The mirror itself seemed to warp and twist, distorting reality as the spirits sought release from their eternal torment. In the climax of the spectral revelation, the room erupted in a blinding light. The whispers reached a deafening crescendo, and I felt an unseen force pulling at my very essence. The mirror shattered, its fragments scattering like fractured memories, and the spirits were released with a wailing cry that echoed through the mansion. I found myself standing alone in the now silent chamber. The oppressive atmosphere lifted. The mansion, once a bastion of sorrow, seemed to exhale a sigh of relief as if the spirits had finally found peace. The air, no longer laden with whispers, felt lighter, and a newfound serenity settled over the decaying estate. As I exited the mansion, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had become a part of its haunted history. The tales of lost love and tragic betrayals lingered in my mind, and the echoes of the spirit's release reverberated through the night. Story 4. The old bookstore beckoned to me from the shadows of the city's forgotten alleyways. Its weathered sign swung creakily in the night breeze, revealing the faded letters that spelled out mystic tomes. Intrigued by the promise of arcane knowledge, I stepped into the dimly lit emporium, the musty scent of ancient pages greeting me like an old friend. The narrow aisles were lined with towering bookshelves that seemed to stretch endlessly into the dimly lit depths. Dusty volumes, their spines bearing the weight of forgotten secrets, whispered tales of the mystical and the macabre. The flickering candlelight added an ethereal glow to the room, casting long shadows that danced with the anticipation of the unknown. As I perused the shelves, my fingers traced over the worn spines of leather-bound tomes and faded parchment. The titles ranged from forgotten grimoires to treatises on occult rituals, each promising a glimpse into realms beyond mortal comprehension. A sense of reverence filled the air, as if the very books themselves were gateways to eldritch knowledge. In the heart of the labyrinthine bookstore, I discovered a peculiar volume tucked away on a secluded shelf. Its cover, adorned with cryptic symbols, seemed to call out to me. As I opened the book, the pages crackled with age, revealing a treatise on a long-forgotten ritual, the Whispering Labyrinth. The labyrinth, the text explained, was said to exist in the liminal space between the waking world and the realm of shadows. It was a place where the whispers of forgotten spirits guided those who dared to navigate its winding corridors. Intrigued and fueled by a thirst for the arcane, I resolved to seek out the Whispering Labyrinth and uncover its secrets. Following the cryptic instructions from the ancient tome, I ventured into the heart of the city, guided by the dim glow of flickering streetlights. The air became thick with an otherworldly energy as I approached the entrance to the labyrinth, a narrow alleyway sandwiched between two dilapidated buildings. The alley seemed to stretch on forever, the cobblestone path disappearing into the shadows. As I stepped into the darkness, the ambient sounds of the city faded, replaced by an scary silence that made me freeze up. The alley twisted and turned, a serpentine path that defied the logic of the city's grid. I lost track of time as I delved deeper into the labyrinthine corridors. The towering buildings loomed like ancient sentinels, their windows staring down with an empty gaze. The occasional flickering of distant streetlights cast distorted shadows, creating a disorienting dreamscape. As I navigated the labyrinth, the air grew heavy with an unspoken presence. Whispers, soft and indistinct, echoed through the narrow passages. It was as if the very walls themselves were murmuring secrets that eluded my understanding. The whispers seemed to guide me, urging me to continue my descent into the heart of the labyrinth. The surroundings became increasingly surreal, the architecture warping into a kaleidoscope of impossible angles. I felt as if I had stepped into a realm beyond reality, a place where the laws of physics and reason were mere suggestions. The whispers, now more pronounced, seemed to form a melodic chorus, their words dancing on the edges of comprehension. Suddenly, the alley opened up into a vast chamber, an otherworldly cathedral bathed in an ethereal glow. The Whispering Labyrinth revealed itself in all its arcane splendor. The walls, adorned with pulsating symbols, seemed to breathe with a life of their own. The ground beneath my feet throbbed with an unseen energy, and the air vibrated with the resonance of countless whispers. In the center of the chamber stood an ornate door, its surface etched with eldritch runes. The whispers crescendoed, their voices now urgent and insistent. With trepidation, I approached the door, the weight of ancient knowledge pressing down on my shoulders. As I touched the door, the whispers reached a fevered pitch, their words blending into an otherworldly chant. The runes on the door glowed with an unholy light, and the chamber itself seemed to pulsate in rhythm with the ritual. A sense of foreboding washed over me, but the allure of the unknown propelled me forward. With a deep breath, I pushed open the door, revealing a realm that transcended the boundaries of mortal understanding. The whispering labyrinth unfolded before me, an endless expanse of twisting corridors and shifting shadows. The whispers guided my every step, leading me deeper into the labyrinth's embrace. As I wandered through the maze of shadows, the air thickened with an oppressive force. The whispers, now more insistent, seemed to penetrate my very soul. The walls bore witness to the phantoms of the past, their spectral forms flickering in and out of existence. It was a procession of lost souls, condemned to eternally wander the labyrinth's corridors. The labyrinth itself seemed alive, its pulsating heart throbbing with an otherworldly energy. The walls whispered secrets of forgotten realms and eldritch truths that no mortal mind could fully grasp. I felt myself being pulled deeper into the abyss, the whispers guiding me toward an inevitable and horrific revelation. As I reached the heart of the labyrinth, a chamber bathed in an unholy glow, the whispers reached a crescendo. The air quivered with an unseen force, and the walls seemed to close in around me. I stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by the echoes of countless voices, their words merging into an indistinct murmur. And then, in a horrifying revelation, the whispers coalesced into a singular voice, a voice that spoke directly into the recesses of my mind. It was a voice that bore the weight of ages, a voice that whispered forbidden truths and eldritch revelations. The very fabric of reality seemed to unravel as the voice intoned a name that echoed through the labyrinth like a sinister incantation. In that moment of horrific clarity, I realized the true nature of the whispering labyrinth. It was not a place of arcane enlightenment, but a trap, a dark entity that fed on the curiosity of those who dared to seek its secrets. The labyrinth was a prison, and I had become ensnared in its web of shadows. The voice in my mind grew louder, its words twisting into a maddening cacophony. Reality itself fractured, and I felt my sanity slipping away. The walls of the labyrinth closed in around me, their whispers turning into tormented screams. I was trapped in a nightmarish descent, a prisoner of the labyrinth's insidious design. As the voices reached a deafening pitch, the very fabric of the labyrinth unraveled, revealing a void beyond comprehension. I was consumed by the darkness, my consciousness becoming one with the eternal whispers that echoed through the labyrinth's endless corridors.